Welcome to Stories Without Borders, the podcast. I'm your host, Hollyn. Here we interview people who use the power of stories in service to promote connection, empathy, and understanding around the world. You can learn more online at storieswithoutborders.org or follow us on Instagram and YouTube at stories_without-borders. Thanks for listening. Here's today's episode. Today, we are speaking with award-winning author Alda P. Dobbs. Alda is the author of the historical novels Barefoot Dreams of Petra Luna and The Other Side of the River. Barefoot Dreams of Petra Luna received the Pura Vilpe honor and is a Texas Bluebonnet Master List selection. Alda is passionate about connecting children to their past, their communities, different cultures, nature, and writing. Her upcoming book is titled The Giving Flower, The Story of the Poinsettia. It's a picture book about the history of the poinsettia flower and the holiday traditions it has inspired. So welcome, Alda.
Thank you, Hollyn, for having me here.
Of course, thank you so much for coming on. I'm super excited to dive into this interview. I've heard you speak a lot about how you were born in a small town in northern Mexico, but moved to America at a very young age. And you've also mentioned that you never really enjoyed writing as a kid and that you never really engaged in writing as a kid. So I'm wondering, was there a specific moment where you realized, oh, this is what I want to do? This is my
No,
jam?
that's a great question because, I moved here to the United States from Mexico when I was a baby, but everything in my neighborhood was in Spanish. So I didn't learn English or started learning English until I got into kindergarten. And the teacher I had there in kindergarten, he had his own traumas. He spoke Spanish, but it was me and this immigrant boy that he would get frustrated because we didn't learn English fast enough. And so he would get his frustrations out on us, and I was terrified of him. He would shake us and do different things like that, and I was terrified of him. I was terrified of English. I had him for kindergarten, second grade, and fourth grade. By the time I was in the fourth grade, I spoke English a little bit better, but I didn't like the language. I didn't like him. I didn't like the language. I didn't want to read books. I kind of rebelled against English. And I told myself, you know what? I don't want to have anything to do with English. I will stick to math because math comes easy. And but something I did like that I never put books and English together is stories. I love stories. I love storytelling. And so since I was little, stories have been my favorite. And to the point that when I was out playing with friends, I would be talking to their aunts or their uncles, grandparents about a story. And my friends would be like, come on, let's go outside and play. And I'd be like, no, wait, your aunt's almost done with their story, because I wanted a story. But I never put two and two together that books are stories. And it wasn't until I was 16 years old, I was working in a mall in the food court. And after we closed the restaurant down for the night, cleaned, I took the bus back home the way I always did. And that night, I remember I had done my homework, so I was about to put my backpack down and take a nap because I was exhausted. And before putting my backpack down, there's a book there next to me. And I picked it up and I said, I wonder what this is about. And it said Catcher in the Rye. And I said, I wonder, what this story's about. So I sat there, I had done my homework, so I opened it up, started reading. And I was blown away. The magic of books came to me at that moment. And I read it the whole night. I didn't go to sleep that night and finished it in the morning right before school. And I said, this is incredible. I'm like, this is magical because I was that character in that book, even though I was very different from that white kid from the Northeast who's rich. I was a poor Mexican girl from the South Side in San Antonio, but I was him, that angst, that feeling, that was me. So that's the first time that I told myself, maybe I could do this one day, But of course, I tried my best throughout high school to learn English better, how to write it. I read a lot more books. I felt like I had a lot of catching up to do. Once I got into college, I took the entrance exams and did really well in math. But when it came to English, I bombed it, And that's when I realized, what, the universe was telling me not to be a writer. so I just put that dream away and went into physics and engineering, and that was my career. It wasn't until my 30s that I actually had the courage to finally realize that I do have a passion for telling stories and writing.
Yeah, and now you have two amazing novels
Oh,
out in the
thank you.
world.
No, I'm very humbled.
Yeah, they're really incredible and they have the story about the Mexican Revolution. So a little historical context for our
Mhm.
listeners. The Mexican Revolution was a civil war and a political uprising from 1910 to 1920 that fought to overthrow dictator Porfirio Diaz. Something that really surprises me is that not a lot of people, a lot of my American peers, they don't really know that much about the history of the Mexican Revolution. It was taught to me in school, but it what we never really went in depth to it, and the book sort of really replenished that and sort of filled in the gaps. And I mean, now know a little bit more because I did my research. I was like, this is incredible. But I heard you speak, and you said that they were inspired by your great grandmother's journey, and so I was wondering if you'd like to touch on that, like how much of Petra's journey was based on your grandmother, and like how much of it was, fictionalized or made up.
Yes, it's a little bit of everything. It's a collection of stories you do growing up, and then you throw everything that you feel that
Yeah.
comes to you naturally in the story as it unfolds. So yeah, the story, the heart of the story was based on my great grandmother's journey when she escaped her town. And they were burning down her town, the Federales, and her family had to cross the desert, escaping the Federales who were after them. So a lot of the, like I said, the heart of the novel is based on that, but there's other scenes because my grandmother was also very poor, and there are a lot of scenes that I actually depict my grandmother's experiences too, being poor, and that's something that I threw in there, and also experiences my mom had, and even experiences I had. For instance, when I joined the military, I being the first woman in my family to join something like that, and that had its own experience. Once I came back after joining the military, people looked at me differently. They treated me differently. So part of that too went into that story. So it's a lot. It's a collection of things. But yeah, the heart of the novel is based on my great grandmother.
I actually Something I was really impressed about your grandmother's story is that she taught herself how to read.
Yeah, I was impressed. That's something that always impressed me about my grandmother, that at the age of 7, she wanted to go to school bad. I mean, she saw other kids doing it, and at one point, she said around that age, she went I think she was 9, she went to school, just showed up, and her father found out and pulled her out of the class and said, "What are you thinking? You don't belong here. You have to go work. This is not for you." And she said, "But I want to learn how to read and write." And they said, "No, no, that's not for you. You have to work." So they pulled her out, and she was upset, frustrated, but she said, "You know what? I some way somehow I'm going to figure it out. I don't know how, but I'm going to do it." So what she did is every time she saw a sign or anything in writing, she would ask people around her that knew how to read and write what that said. And little by little, she started putting sounds to letters. And by the time she was 12, she figured it out. It was like breaking a code.
That's amazing.
Yeah, to me, for a little girl to have that determination at 9 to say that and fulfill that promise, to me, that was
Yeah,
so impressive.
it's incredible. Like I see a lot of that spark and resilience in Petra as well. Like I can totally see the similarities, but I don't know your grandmother, of course, but I feel like there are two completely different characters. And Petra is really well fleshed out, and I feel like she's like really living in the novel. And so I'm just wondering, like, how was that research process like? Like, what was it like for you?
It was great. I had to there's a lot of family stories I had to jot down, remember, and also go back to family members and hear, because every time you speak to different family members, you get a different version or you get new details that you could add. And then I also went the other way. I went to the library and just searched a bunch of books on the Mexican Revolution, especially the ones that touched on the topic of children in the revolution. To me, that was valuable because there's a lot of people who had been interviewed later on, decades later, that recalled their experiences as kids in the revolution, and that was gold to me because a lot of it, there was parallels in the emotions and whatnot, but I was able to use that for the book to create the characters.
So you have two books in the series. I've heard a lot of writers, and they've all said that the sequel of the first book is always the hardest book for them to write. Was that true for you?
Yes and no. I would say in a way no because I didn't realize I had two books. I kept writing and writing and writing. So until my husband, began reading the whole thing, and he said, "Wait a minute, it seems like you have two books here." And I'm like, "I have no idea because this is the first time I'm doing this." And it wasn't until I got an agent that she's the one that said, "Yeah, you have 2 novels here," and I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is great." So by the time I signed the contract for the first novel, the second one was about 70% complete, so it wasn't too bad, so it helped, that I had both almost written. But the third one, they call it the sophomore. I consider this one my sophomore novel, the one I'm working on right now, which is a different character. It's not Petra Luna. That one is challenging because it's all from scratch. A new
Yeah.
character, new setting, new world. And yeah, that one, it is a challenge.
So will there be more books and or stories about Petra, or are you thinking of just sort of ending it there?
I'd like there's people that have asked me about Marietta.
Oh yeah.
They're like, "Are you gonna write a book, about Marietta, like a YA novel or something?" Because more people want to find out about her.
Yeah.
She was the soldier that Petra Luna comes across when she's begging
Oh
for
yeah.
money.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
that she's
remember
one of
that.
the rebels. Yeah, and I've been told about Petra Luna too, because I like the way the second book ends. It you know leaves it in a question. Like it's up to you what you want her to
Yeah.
follow through with. But yeah, it just depends on on a lot of circumstances. I guess if my publisher asks, for that.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Maybe I'll do a spin off on Marietta one day.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I know the rebels were an actual thing.
Mhm.
So, did you do any research? Did you do any interviews? Were there any like interviews from the survivors of the Mexican Revolution that were rebels?
Yeah, my research was on books, reading a lot of books on interviews. There's one by a journalist. His name is, I think it's John Breed. He went with a bunch of VIA troops and interviewed and took notes of their daily lives, and that book was just gold. And I loved all the information it had there, and I used a lot of that, and also newspapers. There was a lot of journalists during that time that would interview refugees coming over to describe what they were leaving behind. So I researched that as well, and yeah, read a lot of books, not only on the people experiences, but also on the political side, the turmoil, because it's amazing. I always tell people there's the show Game of Thrones, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I felt Mexico was. Like everybody was trying to sit on the throne, but at the same time, people are suffering because of that, and just the parallels how you see that in history repeating itself again too politically.
Yeah. So, I wanted to congratulate you on your newest upcoming picture book, The Giving Flower, the story of the poinsettia. So, can you tell us a little bit about like what it is about and what like the process of writing the story was?
Yes, it was a lot of fun because I first of all I love the flower. I think poinsettias. I keep saying poinsettia, but it's poinsettia. It's very I love that flower. But so my I knew it came from Mexico,
Yeah.
but I didn't know to what extent or how. So one time, one Christmas, 2 3 years ago, I said, you know what? Let me find out about this flower, and I found out that the Aztecs were the first to cultivate the flower. So I was amazed, mesmerized by that. I didn't realize it was that old.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I thought it had always existed as what we know now. But no, it was very, very different. First it was at the beginning it was wild, and it was in kind of, I guess the word would be tamed. It was in, it just grew. Just the petals were all over. They weren't really neat and orderly the way they are now. But the Aztecs were the first one who got the plant, started cultivating it to make it grow stronger and prettier. And they used it for different things, medicinal purposes, for inks and stuff like that, and also to decorate their homes. They liked it, and they liked how it flowered, how it bloomed in the winter. And later on, the Spanish came, and they also were mesmerized by the flower, and a legend came out of that. And it wasn't until Mexico became independent and United States sent its first ambassador to Mexico, and his name was Poinsett, and he's the one that saw the flower and was just enamored by it. Sent cuttings back home, and back in the U.S., it just took off. I mean, people loved it. So of course they named it poinsettia in honor of him, right?
Yep.
So that's when I said, "Oh, I see now the whole relation." And to me, connections. I love finding connections within history, within people, cultures, traditions. And I found that big one between United States and Mexico. And of course, being from Mexico, I love
Yeah.
that. And living here, because I love both countries. So yeah, I found that connection. I said, okay, I have to explore this more. And so, yeah, that's how the research, began more thorough and all that. And realizing that I had never seen a book like this that explained the whole history of it. So I thought it was a good opportunity to, again, show kids that history, which I'm
Yeah.
passionate about.
What was it like working with an illustrator for like the entire novel? I mean, was it the entire novel?
It was interesting because with the in the publishing world, the publisher chooses the illustrator.
Yeah.
So yeah, they chose Emily Mendoza, and I am so fortunate they chose her because yeah, she did incredible work. And like I tell kids, because they ask me about the cover of the books too for like Barefoot Dreams, if I had any say so, and I said, yeah, don't ask me for suggestions, but it's the publisher who decides what to do with the covers, and the same thing with the art for the picture book. But, like I tell kids again, it's a whole team that goes behind the work,
Yeah.
the art. Just the example I use is like in movies. You have a movie director who directs the actors how to act and what to do. Here you have the art director who tells the artists what they need to draw. What how to place it and whatnot. For instance, the Barefoot Dreams of Petra Luna, I met the artist John J. Capway, and he's phenomenal. And, he told me that he doesn't read the books when he does the art. And
Oh.
I was, dumbfounded when he told me that because I said, "Well, Petra looks like Petra, and you have you have the comet, the moon, and all that. So how do you knew Petra if you never read the book?" And he said that he doesn't like reading the book because he doesn't want to be biased in terms of the art, what he
Yeah.
does. So he relies on the art director to tell him what to draw and how to draw it and stuff like that. So he follows that direction. So it's amazing just the amount of people that come together to create a book. It's not just the author. There's many 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 people behind that book.
What was the process like writing this book versus writing Petra Luna and The Other Side of the River?
It's very different. With the novel, you have I've pictured like a huge playground where you just run a whole forest. You could run wild and create different things. In a picture book, you're confined to small space, which is usually 500 to no more than 800 words, and each word weighs a lot. So you got to make sure you choose the right word for that right sentence. I mean, and editors will get really picky, like, "Why are you using this one word?" And it's yeah, it's like that, and so I learned that lesson that, but at the same time, I appreciate the language more, and I was fortunate that I got to translate it in Spanish, which is a different technique of writing, but again, each word weighs a lot, and I fell in love with Spanish all over again just because of the way words, how they sound, how they flow together, how they connect, and yeah, it's just its own. It has its own challenges, but it also has its own treats, and surprises when you write them.
The challenge for the picture book for you was just the limit to the words?
It was a limit to the words, but also the fact that they have to fit together like a puzzle.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
have to
yeah.
flow. And in I noticed that when you write in English, sometimes it's easier, quote unquote. It could be easier because words in English a lot of times are single syllable. And, for instance, the body parts, you have feet, head, nose, eyes, it's all single syllable words. So to me, I'm used to that technique of how to make things flow when it's a single syllable word. But in Spanish, again, you take the body, you have oreja, espalda, rodilla. So you have different, multi-syllable words. So you're going to have to find a different way to make things fit. But so that was a challenge in translating, but also in writing and making it flow and also making it interesting for kids to get their attention and at the same time teach something. So yeah, you have a lot of things coming at you at once, and you're kind of confined to this little space, and you have to do it all. The magic tricks have to be done right here and there. You don't have this ample space like you would in a novel.
Mhm.
You have more freedom, but yeah, both have their good parts and challenging parts.
Do you have a favorite writing exercise that helps you get out of like a writing slump or writer's block?
I do. If I'm really stuck, I tend to walk away, go for a walk, just or jog. Just get away from, because the more I stay there, the harder it is to get out.
Yeah.
Or if I'm under pressure that I have to write something I like doing is getting my favorite book, opening it up, and start typing a scene from that book. And before you know it, I'm itching to go back to my work, and sometimes I don't let myself. I'm like, no, no, let it grow, and to the point that I'm like, okay, I'm ready, and I'm just itching to go back, and so that helps me a lot.
What book do you turn to the most, if there is any?
It depends what I'm working on. For instance, Barefoot Dreams of Petra Luna. I studied the Hunger Games a lot
Oh, no
for
way.
that. So I read that book probably over, 20, 30 times,
That's amazing.
but that's one book I would type and it would motivate me just because I see Petra Luna, trying to help her siblings, trying to fight, the people that are after her and trying to fulfill her dreams, So that's I saw a lot of her character in Katniss.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my favorite go-to book.
They have a lot of the same spark and sort of
Yeah.
energy. So that makes sense. I know Katniss's character, and she's sort of like, oh, I volunteer as tribute to go and play in these games. And I see a lot of that in Petra. Maybe not like I volunteer to, but I feel like I see a lot of that same sort of resilience and sort of the same, I'm going to help my siblings. I'm going to learn how to read. I'm going to learn how to write. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to get a job to support my family. And also, like, I'm going to go find my papa.
Mhm.
A lot of that is in Petra, and honestly, just the more I think about it, the more it's like,
Right.
okay, yeah, that totally makes sense. So you are bilingual, correct?
Yes, I
That's
am.
amazing. Do you speak English and Spanish?
English and Spanish, yes.
Gotcha. How do you think your bilingualism has influenced your writing? Like, I know you said that, like, when you were translating The Giving Flower, it sort of felt like you fell in love with the language again. But has the bilingualism sort of influenced, like, your writing even before you translated the books?
It has. That's an interesting question because looking back at Barefoot Dreams of Petra Luna, the English version, I have a lot of Spanish words in there.
Yeah.
And even choosing the right Spanish word so that it wouldn't be distracting, I had to do that. I had to work and focus. Okay, what Spanish word can I put in this phrase that won't distract the reader? Because a lot of people say, well, you don't have a glossary in the back of the book, but I still understand what the references in that Spanish word. And that's what I meant to do. I wanted for the reader to understand what was being said without having to say, okay, let me look at the dictionary and see what it is. And I do have a glossary in my website in case some people
Yeah.
are like, because there are people who say, no, I do want a glossary, so I put one on my website. But yeah, choosing the word so that it flows. I liked it because it was playing with two languages at the same time. How can I make it flow with if I embed one Spanish word on there?
Gotcha. Yeah, because when I read it, it was I didn't I mean, I speak Spanish, so, I mean, it's probably a little bit easier for me, but I didn't really feel like it was like, "Oh, what does this mean?" Because
Yeah.
there are still some Spanish words that I don't know, but I didn't think that, "Oh, I need to know what this means. I don't understand." I felt like it was really integrated into the story very smoothly and very nicely, so
Oh, thank
yeah, of
you.
course.
No, and a lot of people told me too that it almost sounded like Spanglish,
Oh,
because I put a lot,
yeah.
and there's some paragraphs there that have more Spanish words, and I'm like, yeah, it's probably hearing my family talk sometimes when they mix Spanish and English, and it
Yeah.
kind of naturally, I'm like, oh, that's why we use these words like this because naturally our speech, we try to sometimes especially in Spanish. My husband says this, that Spanish tends to be more poetic than English naturally.
Totally.
So, because sometimes I'll tell him or interpret songs or something my mom said, and he's like, "Wow, that is beautiful." That should be poetry. I'm like, "That's just the way we talk." But when we mix both, I think it's a new form of poetry when we mix both languages.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually a song I listened to in Spanish, and one of the lyrics was "Que cosa fueras la masa sin cantera," and that translates into "What would the masses be without the singer?" I mean, which one sounds more poetic?
Right.
I mean, the Spanish one just
Exactly.
sounds like lyrical and smooth, and the English one just like, here is straight fact and more fact.
Yeah, that's what my husband says. Like in English, nobody would, people would laugh at that song, but in Spanish, it just sounds so beautiful.
Yeah, and the message too. It's like, who's gonna sing life? I mean,
Exactly right.
and I feel like honestly, I mean, I just brought that song out of nowhere, but I feel like that kind of ties into Petra as well because there are some songs in Spanish that are incorporated into the books of Petra.
Yeah, yeah. Music. I mean, uh, the songs because I think the in any war like the Civil War, World War II, a lot of wars people will come up with their own songs and music and all that. So that's why I had to incorporate a lot of the music because it gives feeling to the
Totally.
texture to the novel, to the story.
Yeah. And did you listen to music at all when writing the Petra Luna books?
I did. A lot of times the Mexican Revolution songs. There's a lot of
Oh, yeah.
folk songs that they wrote during that time. That if you really listen, there's messages, of what's going on, with the people and women in the military and stuff like that. And you just get inspired by it. You're thinking, oh my goodness, people listen to this as they're, climbing the train or boarding the train to go to battle or stuff like that. So yeah, that really inspired me. And I on my website I have a playlist too of the songs. So if you want to listen to them while you're reading the novel,
That's
you
awesome.
know.
So did you do this translation for the Petra Luna books?
No, they offered me to do it, and I was really excited. At first, I had accepted the offer, and then I translated the prologue, and it took me 2 weeks to
Oh.
translate the prologue. And I said, "Oh my goodness, it's going to take me years to do the whole novel." And and it's just because I wanted it to sound natural. I wanted it to
Yeah.
sound, because it's based on a girl from Mexico, and but at that point, my agent said, "You know what? Leave that for the professionals. There's professional translator. You're a writer, you're not a translator. And it's going to take you a while to figure it out." So what we decided was that we're going to get a translator, but I was going to help out, with suggestions and stuff like that. So I was lucky, we got a great translator, but there's instances where because the story's based in northern Mexico, and the translator was from Mexico City, which the dialects
Yeah.
tend to be a little bit different, the ways of talking. So at that point, I said, "Yeah, let's make it give it that flavor, northern Mexican flavor." And yeah, I've had people reach out to me and say, "Oh my goodness, the songs you're singing, the way they talk, I feel like I'm there in northern Mexico." So that makes me happy.
It's amazing. So it's like sort of you have someone like a professional, but then you also, because you're from northern Mexico.
Yes,
So you have sort of the experience of, oh, this is how they talk, this is some of their
exactly.
mannerisms, and this is like the culture there.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like in the United States too, right?
Yeah.
Like you have Forrest Gump, in the South, and then he wouldn't be talking like a Yankee, right? I mean, it'd
Yep.
be totally a different book. So same here.
I mean, I feel like, Texas and California are two very different. I mean,
Yeah.
like, imagine if there's a book written in Spanish, for example, about a character based in Houston, but then the translator is someone from, I don't know, Minnesota or
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
So, like,
Yeah, exactly. The way they see the world is different because,
absolutely.
yeah.
So, what do you hope your audience takes away from your work?
Oh my goodness, that's a that's a big question.
Yeah.
For me, it's connection. I aim for people to connect with community, with everyone, uh, whether it's a different culture, a different era. I just I strive for connection. I want people. I think, like I said, being a writer is a lonely job,
Yeah.
and I'm always seeking connection. And I want people through books to realize, hey, we're very similar. Despite being from different cultures, religions, places, we're very similar. We all seek to companionship. We all seek, to help each other. So we gotta connect ourselves more, and especially after what happened with the pandemic and all that, I think that kind of isolated us, and we're still trying to come out and connect with our community. So I'm hoping that's what these books do. That no matter what time of period you look at, it's essential for us to come out and connect, with
Yeah.
people.
Totally. I've actually heard this saying. I think it's the more niche your piece is, the more people connect to it.
I've given a lot of talks at program like bilingual
Yeah.
programs with Spanish speakers, and now that the Spanish book is out, I'm getting more invitations to talk to people like that because they find, especially when they're immigrants, they find that connection. They're like, and I at first I thought it'd be only from Latin America, but now I've had people from Ukraine. There was a center with Ukraine people, children that are reading this book,
That's
and they
amazing.
connected with it because of the war situation and displacement. And I'm like, yes, I'm glad that that's my strive, that to let people realize how these things repeat themselves in history. The not only the displacement of people, but also that gap and between the have and the have-nots, rich. You see that happening more in society, and that's what
Absolutely.
had Petra's, situation. That's what caused her not to get an education and struggle and all that. And you see that happening around the world again, the disparities.
Yeah, and even if you can't relate to Petra's experience, I still feel like, I mean, at least for me, I still feel like it has such an impact on you because, like, you see this young girl and all she wants is to learn and to have a safe space where she can learn how to read and write and tell stories. And it's just so heart-wrenching to see, her trying and failing and all these challenges she has to face. So I feel like it's really important that we have stories like this out there. So thank you so much for, writing that and giving the world, a taste of Petra. All right, let's do some fun lightning round questions. I'm really excited. So the format I usually do for lightning round is quick question, quick answer. Are you cool with that?
Okay, let me take a breather here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
All
ready.
right, ready, set, go. What fruit would you want to be?
What fruit? Banana.
Banana.
Yeah, because they're long and I could be taller.
I think I'd want to be a cherry.
A cherry. Why is
Yeah.
that?
I don't know, because I heard the fun fact about cherries is that their pits have cyanide in them.
Yeah, that's true. My son would love because he eats cherries, like all kinds of cherries. So I like that.
What animal would you want to be able to talk to?
Ooh, lizards.
Lizards are awesome.
I have lizards in my backyard a lot, and I'm always catching them.
Oh my gosh, how do you catch them? They're like little squiggly and
They do.
squirmies.
You just have to get really slow, and then just grab them real quick.
My friend and I, we caught a few of them, and I was like, I feel so special. I've been blessed. But
yeah, no lizards. I'm sure they'd probably be like, "Lady, what are you doing?
just let me go."
Yeah, exactly.
I'd probably want to talk to a cat just because
Ooh, that's
they
an
seem,
interesting.
or also a crow because they're extremely intelligent.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'll change it then to a crow.
How do you feel about people wearing socks with sandals?
I think it's funny, especially because I've grown up wearing sandals in Mexico and whatnot. So when I see with socks, I think it's very American.
It is very American.
But it looks comfortable though. I may
It
have to try it
does.
one day.
One day in the privacy of my own home.
No, because my feet can always get cold. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think I'm gonna have to try it.
What do you like to dip your French fries into?
Ooh, probably salt.
Salt?
I add more salt. Not dip them, but I usually.
Oh, like sprinkle. I thought you meant
Yeah.
like.
No, not dip them, but I usually put more salt. I don't like ketchup, and depends on the mayonnaise. If it's like homemade, nice
Yeah.
mayonnaise, I may do it a little bit, but not really. Oh, you know what I do? That sauce, that Greek sauce, tzatziki sauce.
Tzatziki sauce. Yeah.
That's good stuff. Yeah.
I'll have to try that. I just dip
Yeah.
my fries in plain old ketchup.
Oh, really? My kids love ketchup.
I love ketchup. What's your favorite chocolate bar? Is it Twix, Snickers?
I would say I just bought these little chocolates because they're too sweet for me, but there's these little chocolates. I don't know the name of them, but they sound like Costco, and they're really good, and they're little. So I like those. Those are my favorite right now, but I'll probably switch next month or something. There'll be a new candy.
Yeah, me too. My favorite right now is probably 100 grand, and I love that it's like kind of like a Crunch bar
Mhm.
and a Twix and a Snickers.
My husband traveled to Japan and Tokyo, and they sell these Japanese chocolates
Ooh.
that are kept cool on the fridge, and they melt in your mouth.
Yeah.
And they're just out of this world. So.
Japan pays so much attention to
Yeah,
detail. So it's
yeah.
like,
That when I had that, I looked at them and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm in heaven.
yeah.
But yeah, those are good.
I've been also really digging. I think it's an Australian brand. It's called Violet Delight. It's like chocolate covered honeycomb, and it's really good.
Oh my
It's
goodness,
delicious.
I'm gonna have to get some of that.
It sticks to my teeth a little bit, but I think it's worth it. What is the most uncomfortable shoe you've ever worn?
Besides Petra Luna and her shoes, right? Let me see. I'd have to say it was these shoes I got when I was 9 years old. Then my my aunt had a wedding, and my mom got them for me. They didn't fit, and she wanted me to wear them because that was it. I didn't have any other shoes, so for the wedding, and I wore them, and I blistered my feet. Like,
Oh no.
so to this day, I remember those shoes. And I don't like white shoes now because of that, probably because of that experience.
I think the most uncomfortable shoe I've worn was when I was at the airport a few weeks ago, and my mom is laughing in the corner because she remembers this. But I was going to an event in Boston with my mom, and it was the same day. Our flight was the same day as the event, so we were like, we'll have no time to change when we get to the hotel, so we have to wear a fancy outfit and fancy shoes. So we wore these nice dress shoes. Got to the airport, our flight got delayed, and we were like, it's gonna be too late. So we sprinted 2 miles to the next terminal, and then we sprinted even more to get onto the plane.
Oh.
And when I got to the hotel after the event, I took off my shoes and they were blistered.
Oh,
So yeah.
no.
So do you like skirts better or pants better?
I love the way skirts look. Sometimes I'll be shopping around, I'll see a skirt like, oh my goodness, this is gorgeous, and I try it on and it doesn't look
Yep.
good. So usually I wear more pants. I'm always wearing pants, but one day I have faith I'll find that perfect skirt
Me too.
to wear.
I like a good maxi skirt,
Those are nice, yeah.
but I feel like midi skirts, I already wear enough of those in my school uniform. So, I mean, I stick with pants, especially sweatpants.
Yeah, no, those are nice.
So, our last question for the lightning round, if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
That is another big question. I would say hang in there. No, be hang in there, but I would say, just have faith, keep doing what you're doing, work hard, and, things will happen. Just hang in there, because a lot of times when I was a kid, growing up poor, I always felt like, what what's going to be in life? What do I have to do? What I felt like I was never doing enough, never working hard enough, never. And but I noticed, if you just chill, things will happen. Just keep, focus on what you're doing, and things will happen. Because I was always anticipating, okay, why is that not happening faster, or quicker? Just I would tell myself patience. Just be more patient. When I was younger, I was so shy, and I wish I would have been more open to seek mentors. And I didn't start doing that until I was in high school. But yeah, that's something that I wish I would have known younger.
I don't know if this is related, but I heard a psychology term and it's called the hedonic treadmill. And it's basically like where you're always looking for the next thing, where you're always sort of anticipating. So that just reminded me of that.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
pretty neat. I've never heard of it
Yeah.
that way. But yeah, no, you're an incredible interviewer, so I appreciate this.
Oh,
I
thank
had a
you.
wonderful time.
Yeah, so as I mentioned originally when I reached out to you, the Petra Luna series is actually the inspiration for Stories That Borders' first service project, which is a collaboration with Yes We Can World Foundation, which is a nonprofit that supports a quality education for migrant and refugee children. And the service project that we did was we went down to the border with some school supplies that we did in a bunch of school supply drives that ambassadors did at their schools. And we went down to Tijuana, and you can learn a lot more about this on our Instagram, so follow that.
Yes,
And
definitely.
I've said this so many times, but I want to let you know how grateful I am that Petra's story, found its way into my hands. And yeah.
No, that's when your message reached me and I was reading it. I mean, one of the highlights when you're a writer, especially a children's book writer, is when a kid comes to you and says, I wasn't a reader, but your book was the first one I read. To me, I love that, because I was like that. I found that one magical book that changed my life.
Yeah.
And but when you came to me with that note, that you had been inspired to start this organization, I to me that was another, like, oh my goodness, I had to sit there like this is incredible, that. And not only that, but now that you're doing that, you're touching lives, you're reaching out, going above and beyond to help these people, because there's a lot of like I said, the way I grew up, I wish I would have had access to books. I wish
Yeah.
somebody would have said, "Hey, and I used to daydream about it as a kid, that somebody would
Yeah.
come and, give me Spanish books, because I didn't have Spanish books. There were books in English at school, but I didn't, like I told you, I had an issue with English. But I wish, Spanish books had been available back then. So the fact that you're doing this just, yeah, it moves me. And at your age, it gives me faith in this new generation. I'm like, okay, we're fine. We're well. We're good.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And before we wrap up, I wanted to ask if there was any particular cause or organization that's near and dear to your heart. As you know, Stories That Borders, like we believe in the power of stories and service, and so we'd love to amplify anything that that you care about.
I really like the Imagination Library that gives so many books to children, and there's a lot of organizations out there that I have my eye on. Like I said, I want to learn from them. How they do. There's festivals in San Antonio, Texas. Uh, there's one called the Picture Book Festival, and another one that's a YA festival that I like to look at it because I one day hope to emulate what they do by having my own festival there in the South Side. So just I couldn't name all the organizations, because there's so many wonderful organizations out there that are doing the community work and reaching out to impoverished neighborhoods and whatnot. Just what we need right now.
Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you so much for being on this
Oh
podcast.
my goodness! Oh, thank you for everything for having me here. I'm just excited to have met you too. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it's like
Thank you so much.
Holland, and you're gonna go places. So just keep doing what you're doing. It's wonderful. I'm very proud.
Thank you so much, Alda. Thanks for listening to Stories Without Borders, the podcast. Please rate and review the show on your favorite podcast platform. You can learn more online at storieswithoutborders.org or follow us on Instagram at stories_without-borders. And if you like watching your podcasts, subscribe to our YouTube channel at stories_without-borders. Stories Without Borders, the podcast, is written, hosted, and produced by me, Hollyn Alpert. I also wrote and performed the theme music. Danuta Amato is our sound engineer, audio editor, and videographer. Kennedy Hibbert is our video editor. Thanks to Liberty Yanaga and Langston Williams for production support. See you all next time!